In this video, I'll talk about major key signatures and talk about how it is that we move from a key signature like C major with 0 sharps or flats to key signatures with first more and more sharps and then more and more flats. Let me start by having you look at the board behind me. Okay, so here's the C major scale. We have the whole step, tone, tone, semitone or half step, and then there's a whole step, and then we have that pattern repeated, tone, tone, semitone. So the first tetrachord and the second tetrachord are identical. The first tetrachord starts on scale degree 1, or tonic, and the second tetrachord starts on scale degree 5, or dominant. We might think that we could pretty easily build a scale if we started with this tetrachord. And in fact, that would work, but there would be one note that we would have to change. So I'm going to move the starting note to be a G. So now that's scale degree 1. We have G, A, B, C, with the half step there. And then we have D, E, F, G. Okay, so it's almost a major scale, but the problem is that we have a half step between scale degree 6 and scale degree 7, not between scale degree 7 and scale degree 8 or scale degree 1. So this scale right now does not have a leading tone in it. It doesn't have a note that's 1/2 step below tonic that will strongly lead into tonic. But we can fix that by changing the F natural to an F sharp. Now we have a whole step from E to F sharp and a half step from F sharp to G. And over here on the right side, I'll go ahead and write the key signature, writing the sharp like that. Now I'll generate a new scale. I'm going to take the note D. I'm going to use that as the starting note, D, E, F sharp, G, so that we have a half step there. And then A, B, C, D. Okay, again, we run into the same problem. Right now there's a half step between B and C and a whole step between C and D. And again, the fix for that would be to make the C into a C sharp. And that's how we get D major with 2 sharps in the key signature, the F sharp that we added in this line and the C sharp that we added in that line. And I'm not going to go through all 7 sharp keys. For one thing, I'll run out of board, but I'll go ahead and do the next one. Starting on the A, I'll have A, B, C sharp, D with a half step between 3 and 4, like there should be. And then E, F sharp, G, A. No surprise, we have a half step between F sharp and G. In order to make a leading tone that will lead into the tonic, and in order to get the half step in the right place in the second tetrachord, we need to write a G sharp. Okay, so the key signature of A major is F sharp, C sharp, and G sharp. Because of this pattern, because each time we make a new scale, we're moving by fifths. So we have a circle of fifths progression from C up a fifth to G, from G up a fifth to D, from D up a fifth to A. The next one in the order would be from A up a fifth to E. And each time we add a sharp to the new scale, we're always adding it on the 7th scale degree. That means that for all the sharp key signatures, you can simply remember that whatever the last sharp is in the key signature, that's T, or scale degree 7, and the keynote, or tonic, is going to be a half step above that. So what major key has a key signature with F sharp in it? F sharp is the last sharp, so the the key would be a half step higher than that, or G. What major key has two sharps in the key signature, the last of which is C sharp? C sharp is a half step below D. So this is the key signature of D major. Here's a key signature, and the last sharp is G, G sharp. G sharp is the leading tone to A. This is the key signature of A major. So that's a pretty good way of quickly naming the key that has that particular sharp key signature. Here's an illustration from a different textbook that takes the process which I began and it carries it all the way through to its finish. As with my examples, we are generating scales, always starting with the fifth note of the previous scale. And each time we add a sharp, it's always on the seventh note of the scale. That note is shown as a black note to indicate that that's the newly added sharp in each key. So I went as far as the key of A major, and now we also have E major, B major. Now, a perfect fifth above B is not F, it's F sharp. So F sharp major. Clearly, if we had a key of F major, it couldn't be a sharp key, because if you have any sharps at all, the first sharp would be F sharp. So the sharp key that has a note like F as the tonic is actually F sharp major. And then finally, with 7 sharps, we have C sharp major. And again, my little system of looking at the key signature and looking at the last sharp in the key signature still works here. If D sharp is the last sharp that we added to the key signature, then that tells us that the tonic is E, because D sharp is a half step below E. Or if the last sharp in the key signature is E sharp, that relates to the F sharp as being a half step below the F sharp. Here's another illustration from the same textbook that shows you how to write the sharps on the staff for a key signature. And it's very important that you always write the key signatures correctly, whatever clef you're in. First of all, the sharps need to be in the correct order going from left to right. You start with F sharp, next is C sharp, then G sharp, D sharp, A sharp, E sharp, and B sharp. Never write the sharps directly above one another. Always move just a little bit over to the right to write the next sharp. Also, always be sure to put the sharps in the correct octave. So when you write the G sharp, write it up here on the G5, not down here on the second line. If you do it correctly, most of the time in all the clefs except one clef, which is not very widely used, you're going to have this pattern of diagonals that point down and to the right. You'll have 2 sharps, and then 3 sharps, and then 2 sharps. Let me just point out that there's one clef where it's a little bit different. And I'll probably put this on a test sometime as an extra credit problem. Treble clef, bass clef, alto clef, you position the sharps exactly the same way as you do in treble clef. You just have to adjust for where the F sharp is. In treble clef, it's the top line. In bass clef, it's the 4th line. And in alto clef, it's the 4th space. Now, tenor clef is a little bit different because of the need to write the sharps in such a way that you're not using any ledger lines. We never use ledger lines for key signatures. So it happens that with tenor clef, we start on the lower F sharp down here on the 2nd line, and we go up and then down, and then up and then down, and then up and then down. So these diagonal lines go up and to the right, and we have 2 sharps on one diagonal, then another 2 sharps, then another 2 sharps, and the 7th sharp, B sharp, if we get that far, is kind of all by itself. If you want to get this extra credit point when I give it to you on a test, know how to write the sharp key signatures in tenor clef, but it's not the most important thing that you'll learn in this class. Now let's turn back to the chalkboard or the marker board, and let's think about flat keys, which is going to also be a process of moving always by perfect fifth, but now we're going to be moving down by perfect fifth. And as we go from one scale to the scale of perfect fifth lower, to the scale of perfect fifth lower, etc., each time we're going to be adding another flat to the key signature. So here's how this works. Once again, here's our C major scale. Only now the thing that is going to be important is not the scale degree 5 at the start of the second tetrachord, but the scale degree 4, the subdominant at the end of the first tetrachord. So let's see what happens if I take that first tetrachord, C, D, E, F, and I move it and I make it the last tetrachord of a scale, C, D, E, F. Okay, so far my scale's looking good. I actually have the right ending tetrachord here. I have 2 whole steps and a half step. Now I'll start the scale on the F. F, G, A, B. Okay, now we have a slight problem. We do not have a half step above A. Instead, we have this half step from B to C. And the way to fix that is to make this into a B flat. When we do that, we now have a whole step or major second from B flat to C, a half step from A to B flat. So that's the F major scale. It uses all the same notes as the C major scale, except that it has a B flat. And the reason that it has a B flat is in order to get the half step between scale degree 3 and scale degree 4. So the key signature for F major is 1 flat, B flat. Now we'll do the same thing. I'm going to take this tetrachord and move it to be the second tetrachord of a new scale. So we'll have F, G, A, B flat. And we've got the half step between A and B flat. And if I start on a B flat, we'll have B flat, C, D, E. And once again, we don't have a half step between 3 and 4. Instead, we have a half step between 4 and 5, between E and F. And we fix that by making this note a flat. Now we have the half step in the right position. So the major scale on B flat has 2 flats, B flat and E flat. So each time we're moving down a fifth or up a fourth, so we move from C down to F, we move from F down to B flat, and now here we're going to take the B flat and have that be the start of the next tetrachord. So the scale that we're going to write is going to be an E flat major scale. Notice that each time we add a flat to a scale, that's the note that we're going to end the next scale on and also start the next scale on. So in F major, we added the flat to B flat, and the very next scale is going to be a B flat major scale. Here we added an E flat, so now our scale is going to end B flat, C, D, E flat. We'll have an E flat major scale. And the scale is going to start on an E flat, F, G, A. And again, not a surprise, we have a half step from A to B flat. We need a half step from G to the note a half step above, which is A flat. So we add an A flat. Now we've got the half step between 3 and 4. And so the key signature is B flat, E flat, and A flat. Once you get into key signatures with 2 or more flats, the easy way to remember what the major key is that goes with that key signature is to remember that not the new flat, not the flat that we added in this scale, which was E flat, but the flat that we added in the previous scale, the B flat, is actually the key note. So you look at this key signature, you look at the next to last flat, it's a B flat, and that tells you that the key signature with 2 flats is B flat major. The key signature with 3 flats goes with the key of E flat major, the second to last flat in that key signature. Okay, so here's a similar chart from the same textbook, Ralph Turek, Elements of Music. This shows the circle of fifths descending by fifths, going from F to B flat to E flat to A flat to D flat to G flat, and finally to C flat. Each time the first tetrachord of the previous scale becomes the second tetrachord for the new scale. Each time the note that we add the flat to is the fourth scale degree. And as we add more and more flats, it remains consistently true that the next to last flat in the key signature is the tonic for that scale. So for example, D flat major, it has 5 flats, and the next to last flat in the key signature is D flat. C flat major has all 7 flats. The last note to get a flat added to it is the F flat. Okay, and C flat major goes with the key signature that has 7 flats in it. The next to last flat in the key signature is C flat. Okay, here is the illustration that we looked at before, but now I'd like you to focus on the staves that are a little bit lower that show how to correctly write key signatures with flats in it. And here there's no difference among the clefs. All 4 clefs, not just treble and bass, but also alto and tenor clef, will work exactly the same way. We start low or to the middle of the staff with the first flat, B flat, and then we go up to E flat, down to A flat, up to D flat, down to G flat, up to C flat, and then down to F flat, so that you have a series of pairs of flats always on a diagonal going up and to the right. Most of you already know that the order of flats is the opposite of the order of sharps. So with sharps, we start F sharp, C sharp, we end E sharp, B sharp. With the flats, we begin B flat, E flat, and we end C flat, F flat. It would be good, if you're not used to writing key signatures, if you would practice writing these key signatures with 7 flats or 7 sharps, as well as with smaller numbers of sharps and flats. But do get used to writing them correctly. Remember, you have to get the sharps or the flats in the correct order from left to right. You also have to get them in the right octave. And one other thing that I'll mention is that you should write your sharps and your flats neatly enough so that they are exactly centered on the line or on the space that they apply to. So I don't know if this is going to help you. It's just something silly. When I learned my key signatures, I was a child. I was a very young person. And so I learned this mnemonic device, or device to remember, not only the order of the major keys with sharps, but also the order of sharps on the staff. And then the same thing for the flats. G major with 1 sharp, D major, A major, E major, B major, F sharp major, C sharp major. I learned the sentence, "Give Dorothy an Easter bonnet for Christmas." That allows you to count off G, D, A, E, B, F sharp, C sharp. You have to remember that the key that has 6 sharps is F sharp major, and the key that has 7 sharps is C sharp major. To actually write the key signature, the order of sharps starts with F sharp, and then we have C sharp, and then the 3rd sharp is G sharp, and so on. So I turn the sentence around a little bit, and I say, "For Christmas, give Dorothy an Easter bonnet." So that's the order of the sharps in the key signature. The first sharp is F sharp, and the last sharp for the key with 7 sharps would be B sharp. Here are the major keys with flats. I learned that flying birds enjoy a delightful green country. So that tells me F, B flat, E flat, A flat, D flat, G flat, C flat. Those are the major keys with 1 to 7 flats in the key signatures. Remember that the keys that have sharps in the key signatures mostly have natural notes as the tonic notes. It's not until we get to 6 sharps or 7 sharps that we have a black key, an accidental note, as the tonic of the scale. However, when we're in the flat keys, the tonic note is almost always itself a flat note. So the key with 1 flat in the key signature is F major, obviously not F sharp major, because It's not a sharp key. But then every key afterwards has its keynote or tonic as a flat note. So it's F, B flat, E flat, A flat, D flat, G flat, C flat. And then to remember the order of flats in the key signature, again, I turn the sentence around. Birds enjoy a delightful green country flying. If that silly mnemonic device is helpful, excellent. If it's not helpful, don't even think about it. That covers the major keys and major key signatures. In the next lecture, we'll look at minor keys and minor key signatures.